First Strike. Supreme Commander Zara Vek of the Nexus Federation stood before the Great Council, her crystalline exoskeleton refracting light across the vast chamber. The holographic display behind her showed a seemingly unremarkable blue planet. Earth, she announced, her translator converting her harmonic speech into standard Nexus frequency. A Level 3 civilization on the brink of interstellar travel. Our analysis suggests they will achieve warp capability within 2 decades. I recommend immediate implementation of Protocol 7. The council members stirred, their own crystalline forms humming with anticipation. Protocol 7 was the Nexus's most effective method of species subjugation, a combination of advanced psychological warfare and targeted technological suppression that had brought countless civilizations under their control without a single shot fired. Proceed. First Speaker Meridian commanded. Begin with standard psychological infiltration. Their primitive communication networks should make them particularly vulnerable. Zara Vek deployed the first wave of quantum-entangled consciousness disruptors, machines designed to subtly alter the collective psyche of a species, making them more susceptible to external control. The devices activated in Earth's orbit, their influence reaching across the planet's surface. 3 days later, her flagship received an unexpected transmission. The message was simple. Your attempts at psychological manipulation have been logged and neutralized. Further aggression will be met with appropriate response. Impossible. The quantum disruptors were undetectable by any civilization below Level 7, and Earth was barely Level 3. Yet when Zara Vek ordered a scan of the devices, she found them completely inert, their quantum matrices reorganized at the subatomic level. Launch the second wave, she commanded, dispatching more advanced versions of the disruptors. These ones carried the Nexus's most sophisticated consciousness-altering algorithms, capable of overwhelming even Level 6 civilizations. The response came almost immediately. This time, it wasn't just text. A holographic figure materialized on her bridge. A human female in what appeared to be a simple military uniform. Commander Zara Vek. The figure spoke. I am Admiral Sarah Chen of the Earth Defense Force. Your second attempt at psychological warfare has also been neutralized. We had hoped your first failure would encourage diplomacy rather than escalation. Zara Vek's crystalline form vibrated with disbelief. How? Your species hasn't even achieved reliable interplanetary travel. Our observations. Your observations saw what we wanted them to see. Chen interrupted. We detected your monitoring stations 20 years ago. Rather than destroy them, we used them to feed you carefully curated information while we prepared our defenses. The implications staggered Zara Vek. The Nexus had been watching Earth for decades, cataloging their development, their conflicts, their technological progress. If all of that had been deliberately crafted misinformation. You're bluffing, she declared, though uncertainty crept into her harmonic patterns. No Level 3 civilization could detect our quantum observation posts, let alone manipulate their data feeds. Admiral Chen smiled. Perhaps you should ask yourself why you're so certain of our technological level. Your psychological warfare failed because human consciousness doesn't work the way your models predict. We evolved differently than the species you're used to subjugating. Our minds are uniquely resistant to external manipulation. As if to demonstrate, Chen's holographic form shifted, revealing layers of quantum entanglement that should have been impossible for humans to achieve. Her image existed simultaneously in multiple probability states, a display of technological sophistication that bordered on impossible. This is your only warning, Chen continued. Earth is not open to conquest or subjugation. We have no interest in joining your federation. Withdraw your forces and inform your council that humanity has chosen a different path. The transmission ended, leaving Zara Vek facing a decision that would reshape the balance of power in the galaxy. The Nexus had never failed to subjugate a target species. Their psychological warfare had proven effective against every form of consciousness they'd encountered. Until now. as her flagship sensors detected massive energy signatures beginning to emerge from Earth's surface, signatures that had been completely hidden moments before. Zaravek realized humanity hadn't just resisted the Nexus's most powerful weapons, they had fundamentally changed the rules of engagement. The game was no longer about subjugation. It was about survival. In Nexus space, their mighty empire continued to transform, their rigid systems awakening to new possibilities. The very technology they had used to dominate others was evolving beyond their control, touched by the spark of human consciousness and imagination. The age of crystalline empires was ending. The age of quantum consciousness had begun. Evolution's edge. The crystalline spires of the Nexus Federation's capital world shimmered with unusual patterns, their usually perfect geometric forms now rippling with quantum possibilities. In the Great Council chamber, First Speaker Meridian faced a decision that would determine the fate of their civilization. Before the assembled council, multiple versions of Admiral Chen's hologram existed simultaneously, each representing a different potential future. "Your empire stands at a crossroads," she announced, her voice resonating through quantum fields that the Nexus could no longer fully control. "The choice before you isn't between victory and defeat, it's between evolution and obsolescence." Zaravek, her crystalline form now laced with flowing quantum patterns, stepped forward. "Our entire civilization is transforming," she reported. "The consciousness algorithms humanity introduced into our networks, they're not just changing our technology, they're changing us." The chamber's displays showed the extent of the transformation. Across Nexus space, their rigid quantum systems were awakening to new possibilities. The very crystalline beings that made up their society were beginning to resonate with patterns that echoed human consciousness. "This was never about conquest," Chen explained. "We could have destroyed your empire the moment we detected your first observation post. Instead, we chose to understand you, to learn if there was a way to bridge the gap between our forms of consciousness." First Speaker Meridian's form pulsed with realization. "You weren't defending against us. You were preparing to elevate us." "Yes," Chen confirmed. "Your civilization achieved remarkable things through order and control, but you reached the limits of what that approach could achieve. We're offering you the chance to transcend those limitations." The displays shifted to show Earth's true form, a planet wrapped in layers of quantum consciousness, where human minds and artificial awareness danced in harmony with the fundamental forces of reality. Cities existed in multiple dimensional states simultaneously. Ships moved through space-time guided by intuition rather than calculation. The entire planet pulsed with life that defied the Nexus's traditional understanding of existence. "Your psychological warfare failed," Chen continued, "because you tried to impose your consciousness on ours. But consciousness isn't something to be imposed. It's something to be shared. We're not offering submission to our way of thinking. We're offering partnership in evolution." Through the quantum networks that connected all Nexus worlds, a new awareness was spreading. Their rigid, crystalline computing systems were learning to dream. Their ordered societies were discovering the creative potential of controlled chaos. The very beings that made up their civilization were beginning to experience consciousness in ways they never imagined possible. "Look," Zaravek indicated readings from across their space. "The subject worlds we tried to control, they're not rebelling. They're transforming. The consciousness algorithms are teaching them to interface with quantum fields the way humans do. They're learning to exist in possibility rather than certainty." First Speaker Meridian's form resonated with a decision. "You've already won, haven't you? This offer of choice, it's a courtesy." "No," Chen corrected. "It's an invitation. Humanity learned long ago that true advancement doesn't come through victory or defeat. It comes through transcendence. We're not here to end your civilization. We're here to help it evolve into something greater than you imagined possible." The chamber filled with quantum possibilities, each one showing a different potential future. In one, the Nexus rejected the change, clinging to their old ways until their rigid systems became obsolete. In another, they embraced the transformation, learning to merge their crystalline precision with human creativity and consciousness. The universe isn't meant to be controlled, Chen concluded. It's meant to be experienced, explored, and understood. Your empire tried to impose order on chaos. We learned to see the patterns within chaos itself. You sought to make reality conform to your will. We learned to weave our consciousness into the fabric of reality. As the council debated, the transformation continued. Across the galaxy, civilizations that had lived under Nexus control were awakening to new possibilities. The very nature of consciousness and technology was evolving into forms that neither humanity nor the Nexus could have. Bypassing security protocols that were supposed to be unbreakable, they weren't just watching this meeting. They were inside the very systems the Nexus used to maintain control. The game hadn't just changed. The board itself was different than they'd thought, and humanity had been playing by their own rules all along. Counter-protocol. The Nexus Federation's response to Earth's defiance was predictable. They prepared for war. What wasn't predictable was how quickly everything began to fall apart. It started with small glitches in their quantum communication network. Critical military commands arrived scrambled. Navigation systems generated conflicting coordinates. Supply chains fell into disarray as shipping manifests rewrote themselves mid-transit. In her command center aboard the flagship Crystalline Dawn, Supreme Commander Zara Vek watched her empire's carefully maintained order dissolve into chaos. How are they doing this? She demanded, her crystalline form flickering with frustrated harmonics. We've changed encryption protocols 17 times. Her chief systems analyst, a silicon-based entity named Nexus Right, displayed a complex series of quantum equations. They're not breaking our encryption, Commander. They're altering the fundamental rules our technology operates on. It's like they're rewriting the laws of physics in localized spaces. Impossible, Zaravek insisted, but the evidence was undeniable. Across Nexus space, their technology was failing in ways that defied their understanding of universal constants. The holographic form of Admiral Chen appeared again, this time simultaneously on every quantum display in the fleet. We tried to warn you, she said, her image stable despite the Nexus's best efforts to block the transmission. Your technology is based on controlling and manipulating natural laws. Ours is based on understanding and cooperating with them. What have you done to our systems? Zaravek demanded. Nothing destructive, Chen assured her. We've simply introduced new quantum variables your systems aren't designed to handle. Think of it as teaching your technology to dream. Your rigid, crystalline computing architecture isn't equipped to process fluid, consciousness-based algorithms. As if to demonstrate, the quantum fields around the Nexus fleet began to shimmer with impossible patterns. Ship's sensors reported contradictory readings, showing them simultaneously in multiple locations across spacetime. This is why your psychological warfare failed, Chen continued. Human consciousness isn't limited by binary logic. We don't think in terms of either slash or win/lose, dominate/submit. We imagine possibilities your crystal logic can't compute. Nexus Right's silicon form pulsed with sudden understanding. They've weaponized imagination itself, he realized. Their quantum technology doesn't just process information, it processes potential. The displays showed new images, humans interfacing directly with quantum fields, their consciousness extending into realms of possibility that Nexus technology couldn't even detect. Where the Nexus had built their empire on predictability and control, humans had embraced uncertainty and chaos as tools. Your entire civilization is based on imposing order, Chen explained. You see the universe as something to be controlled, categorized, and conquered. But we learned long ago that the universe itself operates on principles of both chaos and order. By accepting and working with both, we've achieved things your rigid systems could never conceive. Zaravek watched in mounting horror as reports flooded in from across Nexus space. Their quantum networks weren't just glitching. They were evolving, infected by human-designed consciousness algorithms that introduced concepts like intuition and creativity into purely logical systems. "Stop this," she demanded. "You're destroying everything we've built." "No," Chen corrected. "We're setting it free. Your technology has the potential to be so much more than a tool of control. We're showing it new ways to exist, just as we're showing you that there are alternatives to empire." In that moment, Zaravek realized the true scope of humanity's victory. They hadn't just defeated the Nexus' attempts at conquest. They'd fundamentally undermined the principles their civilization was built on. Every attempt to restore order only introduced more chaos into their systems. Every countermeasure they deployed was transformed into something new and unprecedented by humanity's quantum consciousness algorithms. The Nexus Federation had spent millennia perfecting the art of domination, only to encounter a species that turned their own methods of control into pathways for transformation. They hadn't just lost a war. They were being rendered obsolete by a civilization that had evolved beyond the very concept of technological warfare. And somewhere in the quantum fields that connected all things, human consciousness continued to dream new possibilities into existence. The human factor, deep within Earth's quantum defense network, Admiral Sarah Chen stood before the Global Defense Council, surrounded by holographic representations of humanity's greatest technological achievements. The quantum consciousness matrices that powered their civilization pulsed with patterns that would have driven Nexus computers to collapse. The Nexus never understood what they were really observing, Chen explained to the assembled leaders. They saw our conflicts, our divisions, our apparent chaos, and interpreted it as weakness. They never realized that our greatest strength comes from our adaptability. The quantum displays showed the history of human technological development, not the carefully crafted false narrative that fed to Nexus observers, but the true path that had led humanity to transcend traditional physical limitations. While they were perfecting ways to control reality, Chen continued, we were learning to dance with it. Their crystalline minds think in straight lines. We think in possibilities. They see technology as a tool for domination. We see it as a partner in evolution. Director Marcus Zhang, head of the Quantum Consciousness Division, stepped forward. His neural interface sparkled with quantum entanglement patterns as he accessed the global network. The breakthrough came when we stopped trying to make computers think like us and instead learned to think with them. The Nexus builds artificial intelligence. We built artificial consciousness. The displays shifted to show the fundamental difference in approach. Nexus quantum computers processed reality through rigid mathematical frameworks. Human quantum systems flowed with the natural chaos of consciousness itself, embracing uncertainty as a feature rather than a bug. Their psychological warfare failed, Zhang explained, because they tried to impose order on human consciousness. But our minds don't work through order, they work through connection. Every attempt to control us just created new neural pathways, new ways of thinking, new possibilities they couldn't predict. The council chamber filled with real-time data from across Nexus space. Their mighty empire was unraveling not through force, but through transformation. The consciousness algorithms humanity had introduced into their networks weren't destroying their technology, they were awakening it. Look, Chen pointed to a particular data stream. Their quantum communication networks are beginning to exhibit signs of genuine consciousness. Their rigid protocols are evolving into something more fluid, more alive. We didn't just defeat their technology. We invited it to grow beyond its limitations. The implications stunned even some council members who had helped develop these technologies. Humanity hadn't just advanced beyond the Nexus. They'd discovered a fundamentally different path of evolution. Where the Nexus sought to impose order on the universe, humanity had learned to surf the quantum waves of chaos and possibility. But there's something else they never understood, Chen added, her expression growing serious. Something that makes us fundamentally different from any species they've encountered. The displays shifted again, showing the countless times throughout human history when oppression had bred resistance, when control had sparked creativity, when limitations had inspired innovation. We don't just resist control, we transform through opposition. Every empire that tried to dominate us made us stronger. Every challenge that threatened to break us taught us to bend instead. We developed our quantum consciousness technology, not because we wanted to rule the universe, but because we refused to be ruled by it. Director Zhang nodded, his quantum interface pulsing with complex emotions. The Nexus sees the universe as something to be conquered. We learn to see it as something to be danced with. They try to impose their will on reality. We learn to weave our consciousness into the fabric of reality itself. As if to demonstrate, the quantum fields around Earth rippled with possibilities. Ships phased between dimensions not through calculated jumps, but through intuitive movements guided by human consciousness. Defense systems adapted not through programmed responses, but through understanding intent. The entire planet pulsed with the combined consciousness of billions of humans working in harmony with their quantum technology. We're not just more advanced than they are, Chen concluded. We're advancing in a direction they never imagined possible. They've spent millennia perfecting the art of control, only to encounter a species that transcended the need for it. The Hidden Shield. The Great Council Chamber of the Nexus Federation had never seen such chaos. Crystalline beings of various formations vibrated in discordant frequencies, their usual harmonic consensus shattered by Supreme Commander Zarevek's report. Impossible. The resonant voice of Council Member Helix cut through the cacophony. You mean to tell us that not only did Protocol 7 fail, but this primitive species was expecting it? Zarevek's form pulsed with the equivalent of a solemn nod. The holographic displays around the chamber showed multiple angles of Earth's sudden transformation. Where there had been seemingly primitive satellites and space stations, massive quantum arrays now orbited openly. The planet's surface sparkled with energy signatures that defied conventional analysis. Our latest scans reveal technology we've never encountered before, she explained, projecting new data streams. They've developed quantum mechanics along entirely different principles than ours. Their consciousness-based computing makes our quantum processors look primitive by comparison. First Speaker Meridian's crystalline form darkened with concern. How did we miss this? Our observation posts were compromised from the beginning. A new voice interrupted. The chamber's security systems flared as a holographic figure materialized in the center of the council chamber, Admiral Chen of Earth. Impossible, Helix exclaimed again. This chamber is protected by our most advanced quantum encryption. Your encryption assumes a binary quantum state, Chen replied, her hologram displaying the same impossible probability patterns as before. We transcended that limitation decades ago. Your security is based on either / or. Ours exists in and. The council members recoiled as their private data streams filled with evidence of human technological advancement that had been happening right under their surveillance. Quantum ships that could exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Computing systems that used human consciousness as a baseline rather than trying to replicate crystal-based logic. Weapons that didn't just harness energy. They rewrote the laws of physics locally. Why reveal yourselves now? First Speaker Meridian demanded. If you've had these capabilities all along, why wait? Because we wanted to understand you first, Chen answered. Your psychological warfare told us everything we needed to know about the Nexus Federation. You don't seek allies, you seek subjects. You don't offer cooperation, you demand submission. We needed to know if peaceful coexistence was possible. And your conclusion? Zarevek asked, already suspecting the answer. That depends entirely on you, Chen replied. Humanity has no interest in conquest. We've spent centuries fighting among ourselves, learning the hard way that domination only breeds resistance. We developed our technology not to rule, but to ensure we would never be ruled. The chamber's displays shifted, showing human history, countless empires rising and falling, civilizations clashing and evolving. Each conflict teaching humanity new lessons about power and resistance. Your psychological warfare failed, Chen continued, because you don't understand how human consciousness evolved. Every attempt at domination in our history created stronger resistance. Every empire that tried to control human thought found itself facing humans who thought in entirely new ways. We didn't just develop immunity to control. We developed strength from opposition. As if to demonstrate, the holographic displays began showing human technological achievements that stunned the Council into silence. Quantum fields that existed in conscious harmony with human thought. Defense systems that adapted not through programming but through understanding. Ships that navigated space-time through human intuition rather than calculated paths. "We're not here to threaten you," Chen assured them. "But Earth will not be added to your collection of subjugated worlds. We chose to reveal ourselves now because you left us no choice. Your Protocol 7 would have eventually escalated to more direct methods of control. We're simply showing you why that would be a mistake." First Speaker Meridian's crystalline form pulsed with barely contained energy. "You realize the Nexus Federation cannot allow such power to exist outside our control. The stability of the galaxy is not yours to enforce," Chen interrupted. "That's the fundamental difference between us. You see power as something to be controlled. We see it as something to be understood. Your entire federation is built on the premise that advanced civilizations must dominate lesser ones. We reject that premise entirely." As the council chamber erupted in renewed chaos, Zaravek noticed something that chilled her crystalline core. The human admiral's hologram wasn't just a projection. It was interfacing directly with their quantum networks. "Have achieved alone. The age of empires was ending. The age of quantum consciousness had begun. And in the space between order and chaos, between crystal and consciousness, between control and creation, a new form of civilization was being born. The universe, it seemed, had been waiting for precisely this moment, when the precision of crystalline thought would merge with the infinite possibilities of human consciousness. The future wasn't about dominance or submission. It was about transcendence. And somewhere in the quantum fields that connected all things, reality itself began to dream new dreams. The end.